Hello, welcome to Tobisonics. It is Tuesday, 25th of May, 2021. I hope you all had good weekends and the weeks have started well for you. In this week's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the newly updated delay plugin from Fabfilter, the Timeless 3. Let's start with a confession. Although I do have the Timeless 2, and I have on occasion used it in my productions, in all honesty, I find the interface to be a little bit fussy, not particularly intuitive. I don't tend to use it that much. Before I fork out the cash for an upgrade, I need to know a couple of things. First up, Fabfilter have made a big song and dance about the fact that they've changed the interface, they've made it much more intuitive. Secondly, what about the actual substance of the plugin? Is it going to give me things that I don't already have? And in order to find out, we're going to do a real world test. We're going to take the production from my new single, All the Little Things, and we're going to see if Timeless can actually give something different, something extra. Before we get into it, if I could just ask you to take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel, that would really help me out. Thank you for taking the time. We've got the hi-hat from the bridge. Right now you're listening to just the dry hi-hat without any echo applied to it whatsoever. And to help things sit in context a little bit more, I've kept the snare and the kick going. And to make it a little bit easier to hear the hi-hat, I've boosted the hi-hat right up, so it's much louder than it would have been in the original production. First up, Echoboy. That's what I'm using in the production on the hi-hat. All right then, without getting bogged down in it too much, let's just have a kind of quick fly through what I did with the Timeless relative to Echoboy. So rather than start with a preset, I decided to just start with a default setting and just see if I could match Timeless kind of setting for setting with Echoboy. So that meant getting it onto a ping pong delay. Here you go, here's the ping pong delay. We go into the timing, there you go, 1/8 note. Matching the feedback and the mix. So that's done down here. Here's our feedback control. Here's our mix control. We also had to take a look at the width. Here's our width control here. And all of that is pretty similar to what I was doing with Echoboy. And where I struggled to match Echoboy was in the timing variation. I really love the groove and feel controls on Echoboy. I think they're very intuitive. They work very, very well. The offset timing here, in all honesty, doesn't feel anywhere near as intuitive. All right, let's have a direct compare and contrast. Let's start off with just the dry hi-hat. No Echoboy, no Timeless. We'll do 2 reps like that, then I'll drop in Echoboy, 2 reps like that, and then I'll drop in the Timeless. Although I think the basics are there, you've got the sort of rhythm that's there, you've got the kind of shape of it, I'm really missing that Echoboy groove. It just feels too kind of stuttered and robotic and doesn't really work for me like that. Now, probably with a little bit more practice with the Timeless, I could probably get it where I wanted it to be. But for something like this, which is a relatively simple ping pong delay, I gotta be honest, the Timeless feels a little bit like Overkill. Let's move along to the chorus, and right now what we're listening to is the Arturia ARP 2600. No Echoboy, no Fabfilter Timeless, just the dry synth. All right then, we're back up against Echoboy, but this time we're going to take a slightly different approach. Rather than trying to match the Echoboy settings, I'm actually going to start with a preset in Timeless and just let it do its thing. So we started with a preset, put a ring on it. And that's from one of the rhythmic presets. You go down to special effects, you go rhythmic, and you got a lot of different options here. I like this a lot. There's a lot of modulation options happening around the filtering. That's creating some really funky effects. We had some pretty heavy modulation going on here as well with the mix. It was really right up there. I decided that was a little bit too much, parked it about 30%, kept some of the modulation, not so much. Dialed the width back a little bit. I also opened up the dynamics quite a lot. It was really kind of squeezing the dynamics, and I actually want this thing to kind of sit back a little bit more and create a little bit more depth in the production. I also changed the timing a little bit. Having said I wouldn't pay attention to Echoboy at all, okay, I paid attention to it a little bit. Here we are, we're on a 1/8 dotted note, so I just switched it to match that. So we'll start off with just the dry synth. We'll do 2 reps like that, then I'll drop Echoboy in for 2 reps, and then I'll put the Timeless 3 in for 2 reps. I have to say, I do like what the Fabfilter Timeless is doing here. I really like all that sort of shift and variation that's coming from all the modulation options on the filters and on the mix. Whether it's a touch too busy for what I was looking for with this particular production, maybe. But there's no doubt this is something the Timeless does extremely well. All right, then let's move on to the breakdown. And what we've got here is Arturia Pigments, just a dry synth, no effects, no Timeless. Right, I want to hear how the Fabfilter Timeless does when it's used as an alternative to using a reverb. So right now what I've got is an effects channel with the United Plugins Orbitron. And what that's doing for me is it's giving me some width, some depth, and some movement in a way that's much cleaner and tighter than if I was using a reverb. I want to see how the Timeless stacks up against that. Once again, I've started with a preset on the Fabfilter Timeless, blurred texture, and then I've tweaked it from then. So one of the first things that I changed was the pitch shift and how it was being modulated. The first thing I did is I took it off free timing and put it onto a quarter beat because that just felt like it sat in the production better that way. The second thing I changed is I came over here and rather than having the value all the way down at 0, so the pitch shift was going from high to low, I set the value at 0, which meant it's just going higher. I tweaked the feedback and the cross mix just to tidy things up a touch. Although I did find that with a little bit more cross mix, I got a bit more size back, which I really liked. That was a cool effect. We'll do 1 rep with just the dry synth. Then I'll drop in the Orbitron for 1 rep, and then I'll drop in the Timeless 3. What I really liked about what the Orbitron brought to this production was it was really very smooth. The Timeless, on the other hand, doesn't really have that smoothness, but what it lacks in smoothness, wow, it makes up for it in funkiness. Those modulation options, in particular on that pitch shift, really give it this kind of chunky, shifting, kind of Tonka toy kind of sound, which is very, very cool for this production. I also think it's handling the sustain much better. I'm getting a much more shift going on without that kind of washy kind of sustain that was coming off the Orbitron. Yeah, you know, I mean, I gotta say, I think if I was doing this production again now, I think I'd be switching to the Timeless. All right, let's go back to our original questions. First up, the interface. I gotta say, it was much, much easier to use. Anyone who's familiar with Fabfilter Saturn is going to be very, very comfortable with that interface. Full marks to Fabfilter on that one. Next up, what is it giving us that's different? Well, when it comes to a simple ping pong echo, honestly, I really don't get the Fabfilter Timeless for that. Yes, it could do it. Of course it can do it. But it's not an Echoboy, it's not a bunch of other delays. I don't need the Fabfilter Timeless for that. I just don't. Look, when we're looking to introduce that next level, I hate that expression, but you know what I mean. Yeah, then the Timeless 3 really comes into its own. It really does put the competition in the shade. What Fabfilter have done with the Timeless 3 is that they've kept all of the complexity. Not only that, but they've added to it. They've added additional textures, they've added additional features, and they've done so in a way where they've packaged it in this very intuitive interface. Is it going to be your go-to delay for simple stuff? Maybe. Hey, if you like using it, why not? It can certainly do it. But where it comes into its own is where you want that extra complexity, that extra variation, where you're looking for something special. That's where it really shines. Try it out, see if it suits your way of working, see if you find it intuitive, see if it suits your music, your productions. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to my channel. It would really help me out. Thank you for taking the time. My new single, All the Little Things, is out right now on all streaming platforms. Please take a moment to check it out. Let me know what you think about it. If you have any questions about its production or any of my other productions, feel free to ask me in the comments below, or you can contact me via social media at Tobisonics. Thank you for watching, and until next Tuesday, good night and good noise. Stay safe and stay healthy.
The wee things, all those little things.